We are officially recording Growing Up in CoDA at the 2024 Texas CoDA Retreat. My name is David Mick. I'm recovering from codependence. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. And come October, will be 35 years since I went to my first CoDA meeting.
Hi, David.
Yeah. Good idea. This is going to be fairly fast because usually when I do this workshop, and I changed the name for the retreat to Growing Up in CoDA, but it's the same thing, Permission to be Me. I did it in Canada. It was like a 2-hour workshop. I've done them over the years. They usually are an hour and a half or so. So this is the abbreviated version, or the quicker version. So first I'm going to start with a little demonstration. So think about it. When we're born, mentally we are clear. We don't have negative thoughts or beliefs about ourselves. So what happens? Let's say we're a 2-year-old, we're getting screamed at and said, "You bad boy." Okay? 6-year-old getting sexually abused. Let's throw some more shame and trauma in there. I'll stir it up in a minute. 8-year-old. Why aren't you more like your brother? Why aren't you more like your sister? You know, whatever it might be. So we begin hearing these negative messages. And then, we're in our teens and our 20s and we're repeating these things to ourselves over and over. And so kind of yucky looking, isn't it? So, does that make sense visually? All right. First of all, I have a confession to make because I forgot to bring my Growing Up in CoDA book. And the focus was going to be on chapter 6, which talks a lot about the reparenting and so forth. Oh, you got it. Good. Actually, if you'll just turn to chapter 6. And the title of chapter 6 is Healing Our Spiritual Wounds with Reparenting. And so that's the focus of this workshop, is learning some self-reparenting tools. So this paragraph on this top of the page, do I have a volunteer that would read it?
We use our nurturing inner parent to replace our inner child with affirmations and permissions. These are antidotes for the negative thoughts and beliefs we unconsciously and consciously have in practice. When we practice affirmations and permissions, we are rewiring our brains. Like physical exercise and play, practicing affirmations and permissions raises the level of feel-good hormones. With much practice, we create new neural pathways. The new positive thoughts or beliefs override the old and become our new automatic thoughts and beliefs. In recovery, we learn we have a choice to heal and love ourselves.
So when we're in school, we're learning the ABCs. And maybe the first day we learned A, B, C, right? And then we come back the next day and the teacher has us say it again. And then maybe we add the letter D, A, B, C, D, and then we come back. And we keep on building on that. But what is happening in the brain, okay, some of us know what a record is. It's got the grooves in it, right? So basically, we're creating these neural pathways in the brain. And it's like when you put the needle on the record, it plays the music on there because it's there in that groove. Well, it's the same thing on our brain. these neural pathways, these thoughts and beliefs that we formed and learned and been taught, they become our automatic thoughts. It's not like I'm thinking, how can I shame myself right now? Oh, you're stupid, right? We don't sit around doing that. All of a sudden, this thought comes up, this crappy thought, and we don't feel good. So that's what happens. We hear this stuff over and over, we repeat it over and over, and it becomes automatic. The idea of reparenting ourselves is creating new messages for ourselves. And we do it from a place inside of ourselves. Okay, we have our inner child, and that inner child when I first got into therapy, I went in there and he said, you have a lot of anger in you. It's like you're this little boy that's really, really mad. He was right. And then he said, the flip side of that, David, is you have this very tender, loving child inside of you. And I was like, what? I didn't know what he meant. So we have these kids inside of ourselves, and they can be different ages. They can be curious. If you read in the CoDA book, the chapter that talks about the child within and all that, I was on a project, we wrote that stuff a long time ago. But we're inquisitive, curious. We're in awe of things when we're discovering. Kids, you watch little kids, they're just full of joy. We're naturally full of joy. And so getting in touch with this part of ourselves, and when we have wounded parts, what do we get to do, if we choose to, is work on healing these wounded parts. Because we also have another part in us. It's an inner parent. And sometimes this is a kind, loving, nurturing parent. Sometimes it can be a critical parent or controlling parent part. So, in fact, just close your eyes for a minute and take a breath. And imagine it's a spring day and you're out for a walk. You're walking in nature. You're in a field, beautiful spring flowers popping up. You hear birds singing. Maybe you see a rabbit hopping through the grass. Maybe you see a turtle walking along. But it's just a beautiful day, and you're enjoying yourself in nature. And as you continue walking, you come up to the woods, and you're enjoying being in the trees. It's just so peaceful. And you continue your walk. And then you hear something. Like, what's that? And then it sounds like something in pain or crying or whatever. You walk a little bit further, and you find a little puppy. And you pick the puppy up, and you hold it close to your chest. And you just have this wave of compassion. You just want to nurture. And this puppy is so scared. And you just have this sense that this puppy needs your love in that moment. And so you're being kind to this little puppy. And then you continue walking with the puppy in your arms. And a little bit further down the path, you hear something else. Sounds like crying. And you come up on a child. This child is about 3 or 4 years old. And the child is crying. And you say, what's wrong? And the little child says, I lost my puppy. You get down on your knees. You show the child the puppy. And this kid squeals with delight. And this wave of love, loving energy is coming out of you for the puppy and for this little child. And as you talk to the child a little bit, you recognize something is familiar about this child. And you realize this kid could be me. And so, as you come back and open your eyes, so part of you was in touch with that nurturing parent part. When you found the puppy, you were giving love to the puppy, comforting it. When you came to the child, we all have this inside of us, or this ability to nurture. And part of you was like that little kid, scared, sad, but then happy, squealing with delight when she or he sees the puppy. So this is that child part of us. And the point of this is we reparent ourselves by just practicing kindness. That's what it boils down to. And I call it the KISS method, KISSS. Keep it short, sweet, and simple. Because let's look at where it says affirmation. Will somebody read what the definition is? Somebody?
An affirmation is a statement or declaration about the I amness of me as a human being. An affirmation is creating a new positive belief about me and for me.
So this is a statement or declaration. I am claiming this for me. This is something I'm claiming for myself. I might not believe it right now, but it's something I want to believe. And the first one, it says, in parentheses, your name. So where you see a blank line like this going on down the page, that's where your name will go. So I would say to myself, like from a nurturing parent, that nurturing part of me, David, you can choose to recover. Okay? And then I can come back from the kid part of me, I choose to recover. Or from the more grown-up adult part of me, I am recovering. I'm choosing to recover. The next one, I am a precious child of the universe. Okay? And I could have that nurturing parent in me say, David, you are a precious child of the universe. And that's the point of these. The other David, would you, just any one of those, pick one and read it.
I am a creative child of the universe.
Okay? Now, how about if you just say your name first? David, you are.
David, I am a creative child of the universe.
Well, David,
I am.
you are.
Oh, you are.
Yeah, it's like a parent would say to the child, you are. Yeah.
You are a creative child of the
Yeah.
universe.
And some of these have the example of the I language and the you language, but I have pages of this stuff. The thing is that it's a short message. It's not, David, you're a creative child of the universe who is so smart and so talented in so many ways. Do you think a 4-year-old was going to grasp all of that right then? Or is that maybe too much information? Yeah, so that's why keep it short, sweet, and simple. Because sometimes people write something out, I go, this is good. Now I encourage you to break it down into sometimes 4 different statements. Because sometimes they can be long. But that child inside of us, a 4-year-old, can't grasp too many things at once. Make sense so far? And if you have a question at any point, please holler. So, okay. Anybody else want to read something? Just pick one. It's okay.
What do you want to read?
Pick one.
The fifth, pick one.
Yeah.
Welcome to the world, Catherine.
Okay. And what's the next one?
Catherine, or I am welcome in the world.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you were born.
Yeah. But just pick the one you read, those 2 that you read, because that's the point. Welcome to the world, Kathleen. That would be what a parent or a loving adult would say to you. And then you say it to yourself, from the I position, the first point. Yeah.
I see.
All right. Now if any of this is confusing, tell me, because I will do my best to do a better job. I've been doing this for a long time. Yes,
Do
David.
you think to be alternating between I and you? Is there a specific reason for that, or you can just randomly do it?
The point is doing it from a nurturing position, which will be the second person, the you are, and doing it from the first person, which is I, myself. I'm claiming it for me. So when you do this work for yourself, what feels best for you? What works best for you? So you might say, man, I am so cool. Okay? And then, but you want some reinforcement from that nurturing side of yourself. David, you are so cool.
So we speak as the inner parent and the inner child.
Yes, yeah. And if you think about the inner parent, we're doing the nurturing, not the critical. We are all experts at critical parent. Every one of us in this room, I promise you, is an expert at using that critical parent. Okay? So now, we're working on the nurturing part. Okay? Okay, but y'all are asking good questions. Anybody else got a question? Or is anything confusing for you? Okay. So, I'm just going to start picking on people. What's your name? Zora. With a D? I see. Bad hearing. Dora. Are you willing to read something on this page?
Okay, so Dora, I'm so glad you were born.
Okay. And then
And then
I am.
I am so glad I was born.
Yeah, great. See how she did that? So because it's like a loving, nurturing parent saying this, and then now she's claiming it and bringing it inside to a deeper level. That's really what this is about. You know, we learn this stuff in our head. The longest journey is the shortest distance from here to here. Getting it from here into our heart. You know, it's not that far, is it? But sometimes it's a very long journey. So, okay. Who else can I pick on? Okay.
Next to you.
Pick. Hi. Yeah.
This one's a hard one, but Desiree, I accept you as you are.
Okay. Now,
I accept me as I am.
great. Now, and see, when we start doing this work, we're going to have some feelings. What did you just say, Desiree? This is a hard one, right? And we have these thoughts pop up because, oh, is this true? I mean, this is part of the process. Because we've learned these negative thoughts and beliefs about ourselves. So when we start, these are antidotes. If you think of it, these are antidotes from part of my language, for the crap that we learned. Or to be even more succinct, the shit we've learned. Because I was talking to this gentleman over here earlier, we're talking about the shoulds. And Albert Ellis said, when we should on ourselves, we shit on ourselves. And when we shit on ourselves, we're shaming ourselves. And I think everybody in this room knows what shame feels like. I think we all know what it feels like to be shamed by someone else and to shame ourselves. And so what all of this is about is learning how to be kind to ourselves, love ourselves, and let go of that shame. That shame is a lie. I was in a meeting, I don't know, over 30 years ago. I think it was an open AA meeting. And a person in there said, God does not create junk. I'm like, now this was, after I'd been in a couple of years and I'd got past the God word. The first time I was in the CoDA meeting, they said the word God was used. I'm like, I had to change my conceptions of what that meant for me. But this guy was like, because by then I had a loving God. And but when he said, God does not make junk, I was like, wow, that is so cool. Nobody in this room is junk. Now, I used to believe, my literal belief was this: I am a worthless piece of shit. I believe that. Okay? I think I see some heads nodding. I think some people can relate to that. Guess what? Everybody in this room, everybody on the planet is worthy of being treated with dignity and respect. Even people whose behavior is atrocious. Because there are some people, it's difficult for me, because I have to look past their behavior and say they too the Creator made them. Their behavior is awful and junky, but they're not junk. Although there's a part of me that says that they are, and I have to remind myself, no, what are my values? So, making sense so far? So when we did that little meditation, where we got in touch with that nurturing part of ourselves and that child part, did anybody have any thoughts or feelings that came up you want to say anything about?
I find it though, it's a personal journey. Even when I've had people say, oh, you really work hard, you did a great job, but it's not until I get it inside of me and do that reparenting and claim that.
Yeah.
And then kind of just let it go. I don't need the external validation. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
I've been shamed all my life. So it's just,
Anybody in here relate to what you just heard? Because if I don't believe it, it doesn't matter if 100 people tell me. I don't believe it. What's wrong with you? You must be nuts to believe it. Yeah. No, it's not until we get it inside. Again, when they're saying it, we might go thank you and so forth, and it's here, but again, it's moving to here. And that takes practice, just like the ABCs. Personally, I don't like that one. Act as if is another way of saying that.
Say it again?
Act as if.
Yeah, act as if. Yeah.
Act as if I believe it's true. The reason I don't like fake it till you make it, because I did enough faking in my life. I could be a chameleon at times. And so for me, but if it works for you, that's cool. If fake it till you make it works for you. For me, I like to act as if. I'm trying to make sure I'm on schedule here because, like I said.
That practice, that exercise that you had us do when we're walking, what I noticed is that I can be compassionate to the dog. I can be compassionate to another child. When we turn and that child looks up and we see that's me, then it's harder to be compassionate with myself. But I realize I can be compassionate. So if it's possible to be compassionate with a stranger, why can't I be compassionate with myself? And those affirmations are good practice to so that the inner parent can learn to nurture and the inner child can practice accepting the nurturing. Usually it's no.
Yeah.
Not that my behavior is bad, like you said, that their behavior may be bad, but they are still created perfect.
Yeah.
And to separate that, I thought I was bad, but it was just my behavior that was annoying the adults in my life.
Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah.
So I'm
No.
not inherently bad. That's what shame is.
Yes.
If I broke something that I shouldn't have been playing with, I'm guilty of that. And that's the truth. I am not a bad person.
Right.
Because I break.
Yeah. But what about how many times as kids were we told, you're bad, you bad girl, you bad boy?
Right.
No. So, yeah. So still with the visual. Okay, so let me stir this up again. Just to remind everybody the gunk, right? All right. So really what we're doing now is we're putting in new information. Okay, now you see how it's kind of clearing it up some? Now it doesn't mean that gunk is going to be gone. It's in there somewhere. But we're putting in new, kind, loving information. And the more we practice this, that's why it says that will become the overriding or the new thought. But it takes practice. Because I told myself I'm a worthless piece of shit probably millions of times until I started working on something different. And so that, for me now, that is an ancient memory. What I tell people, years ago, I was trained in how to do this work back in the 80s. And then I began actually applying it to myself in 1990. Because it's like, okay, I'm training to be a therapist. I've done all this blah, blah, blah. I've practiced some therapy. But you know what? I got to do some work on myself. I don't need to be working with other people. You know, what's the old line? Physician, heal thyself. I can't give away what I don't have. So I began doing the work on myself. And I began writing these messages, affirmations and permissions. And I made a commitment to myself. Every day for a year, I would take about 20 minutes to sit, relax, and read some of them to myself. And of course, I would say something to me, and one of those negative thoughts would pop up. And you know what I would do? I would just keep on. Now, after I was done, that negative thought that had popped up, I would write it down and I'd come up with an antidote for it. Okay? And add that antidote to my list. So I came up with more and more and more of these affirmations and permissions. And I did that every day, 3 times a day for a year. Now, I'm not telling people need to do that. Because sometimes people hear something, they go, oh, I got to do that. No, you don't. You don't got to do anything. But what I'm saying, I made a commitment to myself to change the way I thought and believed about me. And I could tell a difference at the end of that year. And I said, man, this is interesting. I continued doing it for another year. And after that second year, I was like, wow. So I said, I'm going to do it one more year. And I did. Okay. And after that third year, I didn't just stop, but I wasn't every day doing it 3 times a day. But what had happened is the overriding beliefs and thoughts were the positive messages. You know, even now today, sometimes one of the toxic messages from my mother will pop up. I'll just go, stop. You're not true. And then I'll think of something positive. You know, I'll give myself a positive message. So, you know, that's why I say we do this work. Doesn't mean there's not any residuals left. This must be realistic. This is not a cure-all. If I was cured, I wouldn't be here today. You know, I tell people, when I'm like the Dalai Lama and I no longer react, when I'm just like, he seems to be just all cool all the time, then I can say, well, maybe I'm cured, but I'm not there yet. So, all right, making sense so far? Good. All right, so let's take, there's several examples on this page. I'm going to encourage you guys to either write a couple of these down or create a couple of new ones for yourself right now. So. Oh, yeah. When I said earlier it's an abbreviated workshop, it is. Because we don't have, usually we have, a few minutes more to write some things down. Is anybody willing to share something they wrote?
To swap, I got the you just don't think with Kathleen, you are a sound thinker.
Cool. That's great.
It's hard to do though.
That's okay. I mean, yeah, it's like when we first pick up the dumbbell, and then we start doing it, and it gets easier and easier. So, okay, some.
Don, you don't have to be perfect, and I challenge that with I am not.
Ah, yes, that's great. You don't, yeah. I like that. I'd like to phrase these in all like you don't have to pick on yourself. How about be kind to yourself? But yeah, I like how you said that. I'm enough.
On my refrigerator, I do enough, something else enough, and I am enough. I can't
Yeah.
remember the second.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Anybody else want to share one? Okay, so this is what we're going to flip the page over, where it says permissions. Okay, who wants to read that definition? Okay.
Permission is a statement or declaration that allows you to be human. Permission is a gift I choose to give myself that allows me to be authentic, to be who I was created to be.
So, this statement or declaration, really, it's allowing me to be human. We are human beings. I believe we are divine human beings. I was created by Spirit, Gomu, God of my understanding, Yahweh, Wakantanka, Allah, whatever your term for higher power is. But that's who created me. That's what created me. So I'm a divine human being. I'm made from stardust that's billions of years old. So this is a gift I'm choosing to give myself because I'm allowing myself to be who I was created to be. And I remember years ago working with my sponsor, and he said, write down. Okay, Sept came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. He said, what does sanity, what would that mean to you? And we all have heard what insanity is, but what would sanity mean? And as I thought about it and wrote about it, I said, being who I was created to be, being my real self. And so that's the point of the permissions. And the first one I have on here is David. You are permitted to accept your affirmations. Okay? I could have phrased that, David, it's okay to believe your affirmations. Okay? Or David, you are allowed to accept your affirmations. Those are all permission type of words. Okay, permitted, allowed. Because I wrote next, I permit myself to accept my affirmations. Okay. All right. David, it is okay for you to believe your affirmations. Okay. Or I could have said, or David, you are allowed to believe your affirmations. These are permission words. It's okay to, allowed to, permitted to. Am I making sense, or is it too convoluted? If you don't understand, let me know. Okay. Because sometimes I'll be saying something like, the little 5-year-old in me is like, what did you just say? And I got to break it down. So, okay. Stephen, would you be willing to read one of these?
Stephen, it's okay for you to succeed. It is okay for me to succeed.
Now, what are your thoughts, feelings on that?
Yeah, I chose that one because sometimes there's a fear of success, of
Waiting for the other shoe to drop. Yeah. I think that people in here relate to that. No, here. Would you read the next one, please?
It's okay to fail, Stephen.
Huh?
It is okay for me to fail.
So giving ourselves permission to fail, to make mistakes, because it's part of being human. Giving ourselves permission to succeed. Because some of us like, well, if I succeed, I'm waiting for that shoe to drop, right? So, but guess what? In life, we're all going to have successes and failures. That's just part of life. And allowing ourselves that this is part of being human without beating up ourselves and shaming ourselves is part of this growing up. Part of growing up in CoDA. So in my home group, we have several books, and years ago, on the edge of the book, someone wrote "group." So people knew the book belonged to the group. And we're sitting in there one day, and there's one guy looks at it. He said, "Grow up." GROUP. Grow up. Yeah. So he was using that creative child in him to make something up. That was pretty cool. Okay. Somebody else want to read a couple of these? Okay.
Sean, it is okay for you to have boundaries. It's okay for me to have boundaries. It's okay to enforce your boundaries, Sean. It's okay for me to enforce my boundaries.
Thank you, Sean. So that's the thing about boundaries. If we don't have, okay, I grew up learning mostly no boundaries, but that's my mom. But my dad was like walls. At times he was walls. To protect himself, he had to be a wall from her. But so I was learning boundaries, but so it was like I was on this pendulum. Sometimes I was trying to learn how to set a boundary, but I would go overboard on it. It's like, oh, wait a minute, that was a little harsh. So learning just about boundaries it's like anything else. It's a process. It takes time to learn. However, and in the CoDA book, in the section in chapter 5 on boundaries, it talks about this. The deal is that if another person doesn't have boundaries, if they don't know what boundaries are, it's not likely they will respect your boundaries. And so sometimes it's necessary to teach them. No, seriously, I taught my mom. She finally understood. No, you can't talk. She can't talk about my siblings with me on the phone, or I'd just hang up and say, bye, I'm getting off. Or I'd go over there, if you continue, I'm going to leave. And she finally realized I just meant business. My siblings didn't learn that. So they were always like, after seeing her, kind of spinning for a while. But that's okay. That's where everybody is. So learning to set these boundaries, and it's most difficult with probably family. The people we grew up with, the people we're closest to. I mean, those are the hardest people to set. If it's some stranger, excuse me, but don't cut in front. There's 3 of us in this line already. I don't care what they think. I don't even know them. But if it's like, had been a family member, I'd be like, oh, my sister might be mad at me or whatever. So learning how to set these boundaries, but it's for our own safety and protection and well-being. At the same time, respecting the boundaries of others. And so if I don't have my own boundaries, I'm not going to recognize other people's boundaries either. If you think about recovery, it is for me, okay? However, it helps me to be more aware of other people and be more respectful of them. Okay, so the permission for me, okay. See how, is that font really small? Want y'all see how small this font is? Okay. Pretty small, isn't it? Yeah, but maybe not for you younger people, dinosaurs like me, it's really small. So 30 years ago when I was making these, it wasn't that small. to do something I hadn't done. So I've got a lot of these, but I didn't come up with these overnight. This is work like anything else. It takes time. We celebrated 28 years of marriage on June 28th. And we were at the Empower Music Festival in Unity Village, Missouri, and so we get up on stage, and Terry does her song, and I did the background, and then she didn't know. I sang a song that I wrote for her and surprised her. Now here's the deal. I started working on that song before COVID. Okay? I was taking it at a community college. They have like senior classes, people 55 and older. And there was a guy teaching a songwriting class. And so I was in that class, and I had a melody and I had a few words, and so I was doing it in that class, and then COVID hit. Because I think I started it. And COVID hit, and then after COVID, he wasn't teaching the class anymore. So I'm like, dang, I really need to do this, need to finish this. But the point I'm saying is that it took me a long time from when I started it to when I finished it. What, 5, 6 years, something like that? So it's okay. It's okay to come up with 2 or 3 of these, start practicing them, and then, if something comes up, write it down. If something positive, write it down. Take 5 minutes, just sit, relax, and breathe, and read these to yourself. Or, maybe write it on a sticky note. Do it in front of the mirror. That's really weird. When I first did mirror work, oh my God. I was so shame-based. I couldn't look at myself. I just got up there. All I saw was my eyes. And I'm saying, you're a good person, David. But it took work. And over time, I stepped back a little further. And I began more and more accepting myself and not feeling that shame. So recovery, it's often said it's a simple process. However, that doesn't mean it's easy. It takes commitment. And that's really, we're making a commitment to ourselves. And you know what? I was back in the 70s, 80s, I would have been one of those guys that the women would have said, he's commitment phobic. Well, they weren't lying. I mean, I'd been married one time and that didn't last. Been in different relationships that didn't last. But the deal is that I had made a commitment to myself. How could I make a commitment to someone else? I didn't love myself. How could I really love someone else? How can I give to someone else what I don't have? If I don't have $5, I can't loan you 10 cents. Because I don't have any money at all. If I have $5, I'll loan you $4 maybe, or maybe $1. Depends what I need it for. Boundaries, right? Okay. But so this is work. However, it can be fun too. You can have fun with it, and the last part of this, before, any questions so far about doing the permissions? For me personally, I think for me the permissions were actually more important than the affirmations were. Not to say I didn't need the affirmations, but I have, in my personal work, I have a lot more permissions than affirmations. So there's just a lot I need to be. Be yourself. It's okay, David. It's okay to be me. I needed a lot of that. So the last part of this, gratitude. I'm going to read it. Gratitude. A statement of gratitude helps me create a positive belief system. Stating what I'm grateful for supports me in keeping focused on the positive. I am reminded that what I focus on grows. So if I focus on a solution, if I focus on the good things happening, I start seeing that more. I promise you, I used to be the most negative person on the planet, or maybe not the most, but one of them. And you know, that's light years ago and light years away. I'm generally a positive person. Not to say I don't need someone to call the ambulance for me sometimes. If you don't know what the ambulance is, I'll show it to you afterwards. I have a picture of one. But you know, I'm grateful. I'm very blessed. Yeah, I know. The next one starts at 2, right? So we're going to wind this up. But before we do, any questions before we wind up? Questions, comments, anything before we finish up?
I can't make a commitment to you if I haven't made, or can't keep a commitment to myself. It never occurred to me.
Oh, I was gonna say, so you recommend we get the Growing Up at CoDA?
Oh yeah, that book. It's a good book. You know, last year when I got the draft of it, and I was the alternate last year, but it was passed and now it's been published. They did a really good job on it. I'm proud of myself too, because some of the stuff in that book is what I wrote and it was put in chapter 5 of the big CoDA book years ago, and I'm like, cool, all right, and the permissions in that part about reparenting ourselves. If I could do it now, I would have put in more about permissions, but that's okay. It's all good. It's all come out well. The literature committee did a great job on that book, so I highly suggest Growing Up in CoDA. It's a good book. So thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.